It was just after midnight when Moscow's skyline, usually calm and glittering, suddenly lit up in chaos. Alarms blared, windows shattered, and fire crews scrambled as Ukrainian drones zeroed in on one of Russia's proudest symbols of wealth and power, the Federation Tower. Standing more than 1,200 feet tall and valued at a staggering $2 billion, this skyscraper isn't just real estate. It's a statement of Russian prestige. And that's exactly why it became a target. Witnesses in Moscow reported hearing a sharp buzz overhead before a thunderous blast rocked the city. Glass rained down from the tower, and thick smoke billowed into the night sky. Videos taken by stunned residents quickly hit Telegram and Twitter, flooding timelines with the shocking footage of flames licking at the upper floors. Within minutes, the story wasn't just a Moscow emergency. It was international news. What makes this strike so bold is where it happened. The Federation Tower sits in Moscow's International Business Center, the beating heart of Russia's financial world. Banks, investment firms, and government-linked companies operate here. For Ukraine to send drones directly into this area wasn't just about causing damage. It was about sending a message. Nowhere is untouchable, not even the core of Russia's capital. And that message hit hard. Russian officials scrambled to downplay the incident, calling it a minor event. But the footage told a different story. Firefighters battled flames for hours while police rushed to cordon off the area. The once glittering skyscraper now stood scarred, a symbol of vulnerability rather than strength. But here's the thing, this wasn't the end of the story. If anything, the Federation Tower strike was only the beginning of a much bigger and more dangerous escalation. The morning after the strike, Moscow was still reeling. Smoke still curled from the upper floors of the Federation Tower, and the streets around the financial district were blocked off. Residents who usually took the skyline for granted now found themselves staring at charred glass and scorched metal, wondering how a Ukrainian drone had penetrated the city's supposedly impenetrable defenses. Inside the Kremlin, panic spread quietly. Officials scrambled to assess the damage and the implications. If drones could hit one of the most prominent buildings in Moscow, what else was vulnerable? Air defense systems, touted as the most advanced in Europe, were suddenly under scrutiny. Military analysts debated whether this was a one-off strike or a signal of Ukraine's growing reach. Civilians were sharing videos on social media, many capturing the chaos in real time. Traffic snarled as police diverted cars, and people evacuated nearby offices and apartments. The psychological impact of seeing such a high-value target hit in the middle of a major city cannot be overstated. It sent a message to Muscovites. The war was no longer hundreds of miles away. It was at home, visible and undeniable. Even the Russian media, usually tightly controlled, struggled to spin the narrative. Headlines minimized the event, calling it a minor disruption. But the images told a very different story. Social media posts and eyewitness videos quickly went viral, leaving little room to hide the reality of the attack. The sheer audacity of Ukrainian forces had shaken both public perception and confidence in city security. And this panic wasn't just about fear. It forced Russia to rethink strategy. Emergency units were redeployed, air defenses were repositioned, and a ripple effect of heightened alertness spread through the city. For Ukrainian forces, this was more than just a tactical strike. It was a psychological operation, designed to demonstrate capability and sow doubt. By the end of the day, Moscow wasn't just recovering from the physical damage. It was grappling with the realization that Ukraine had reached into the heart of the city, and the implications of that were just beginning to sink in. So how did Ukrainian drones make it into the heart of Moscow, past advanced radar systems and layered air defenses? The answer lies in a combination of technology, timing, and ingenuity. Ukraine has been quietly refining a new generation of long-range drones, some capable of flying hundreds of miles while carrying precise explosive payloads. These drones are small, agile, and hard to detect, perfect for a high-profile strike like the Federation Tower. The planning began weeks in advance. Intelligence teams monitored Russian defenses, mapping radar coverage, patrol patterns, and response times. Ukrainian engineers adjusted the drone's flight paths to exploit blind spots, while operators rehearsed the mission over simulation software to ensure every movement was calculated. Precision was everything, One miscalculation and the drones could be intercepted, or worse, the operation could fail entirely. The drones themselves are relatively low cost compared to Russia's billion-dollar air defense systems, but that's part of what makes them so effective. A fleet of inexpensive drones can overwhelm radar and interceptors, creating openings for key targets. In this case, the Federation Tower's upper floors were struck with surgical accuracy, avoiding total structural collapse while delivering maximum symbolic impact. Execution relied heavily on timing. The drones were launched in waves, each one designed to test Russian reactions while the next moved in. Operators coordinated in real time, analyzing air defense responses and adjusting flight paths mid-mission. It was a blend of human skill and technology that turned what seemed impossible into reality. By the time Russian forces realized what was happening, the drones had already completed their mission. The Federation Tower, a symbol of wealth and power, stood scarred, not destroyed, but enough to prove a point. And the message was loud and clear. Ukraine doesn't need conventional forces alone to strike deep. This strike wasn't just about hitting a building. It was about demonstrating capability, showing the world and Moscow that Ukrainian drones can reach anywhere, anytime, and that no target is truly safe. The moment the Federation Tower was hit, chaos erupted across Moscow. Sirens wailed, emergency crews rushed to the scene, and nearby streets were instantly sealed off. Civilians scrambled to evacuate, and traffic in the financial district ground to a halt. People who had walked past the tower daily suddenly realized how exposed the heart of their city really was. The immediate chaos wasn't just physical, it was psychological. Residents shared frantic videos online showing fire engulfing the upper floors, smoke rising into the night sky, and shattered glass littering the streets. Many described the sound of the drones as a high-pitched whine followed by a deafening blast, moments that left witnesses frozen in shock. Social media erupted, with footage going viral in minutes, forcing even state-controlled outlets to acknowledge the attack. Inside the Kremlin, the atmosphere was tense. Russian officials held emergency meetings to assess the damage and respond to public panic. Security forces were deployed across the city, anti-drone systems were hastily activated, and elite units moved to defend other potential targets. Moscow, long considered invulnerable, was suddenly on high alert. Meanwhile, Ukraine's strategy had achieved more than a tactical strike. By hitting a high-profile urban target, they sent a wave of fear through the city, forcing Moscow to divert resources from the front lines to defend the capital. This ripple effect disrupted normal operations, and the psychological blow was immediate. If Ukraine could strike the Federation Tower, what else was vulnerable? For hours, the city teetered between chaos and controlled response. Emergency crews worked tirelessly to contain fires, but the damage and the message had already been made. Moscow, the symbol of Russian power and confidence, now faced a stark reminder. The war had reached their doorstep, and Ukrainian drones were capable of hitting anywhere. The strike on the Federation Tower wasn't just about physical damage. It was a symbolic blow aimed at the heart of Russia's pride. That skyscraper represents more than wealth and architecture. It's a statement of power, a visible symbol of Moscow's dominance and Russia's economic strength. By hitting it, Ukraine sent a message that even the most protected symbols were not untouchable. The psychological impact was immediate. Ordinary Russians, who had long viewed the capital as secure, began to feel vulnerability in their own backyard. Fear and uncertainty spread across social media and news outlets, challenging the narrative of invincibility that the Kremlin had long cultivated. Confidence in Moscow's defenses took a visible hit, and for Ukrainian forces, that effect was as valuable as any physical destruction. Strategically, the strike forced Russia to react. Air defenses were redeployed, emergency protocols tightened, and additional troops were assigned to protect high-value urban targets. Resources that could have been used on the front lines were diverted, creating openings elsewhere. The ambush highlighted a new reality. Ukraine could strike high-value targets deep inside Russian territory, shifting the balance from mere defense to psychological warfare. In short, the Federation Tower strike was more than a headline. It was a clear signal that the rules of engagement had changed, and the war had entered a new phase where precision, strategy, and perception mattered as much as brute force. The Federation Tower strike proved something critical. In modern warfare, symbols can be just as powerful as armies. By hitting one of Moscow's most iconic skyscrapers, Ukraine demonstrated that it can project influence deep into Russian territory, forcing the Kremlin to react not only militarily but psychologically. This attack changed the way Russia must approach its own security. Air defenses that were once taken for granted are now under constant scrutiny, and resources must be diverted to protect symbolic urban targets rather than frontline operations. That shift gives Ukraine strategic openings elsewhere, highlighting the growing importance of drones and precision strikes in this conflict. Looking ahead, the implications are clear. Ukraine has shown it can strike where Russia feels safe, reshaping both strategy and perception. Moscow's skyline may never be viewed the same way again, and the psychological ripple effects could influence both military decisions and public sentiment. The Federation Tower strike wasn't just a tactical victory, it was a statement, a reminder that even the most powerful cities have vulnerabilities, and that innovation, intelligence, and precision can level the playing field against a much larger opponent. The war is far from over, but one thing is certain. The rules have changed, and Ukraine has shown it can adapt faster than anyone expected.